And welcome back to Troll Time. I'm your host, Ivan D. Curtis. And this is the show. I'm your host, Ivan D. Curtis, aka the Troll King. And this is the show where we talk sports, movies, or anything thought provoking. Of course, tonight, game 5 of the Indiana Fever and the Las Vegas Aces, 9:30 on ESPN2. We're going to get into that. We'll talk about Unrivaled. And then, of course, of all of the WNBA discourse and news that took place earlier today. If you've been paying attention to the show, you know I don't do this alone. Hey, Willie, what's going on with you, brother?
Hey man, we got a lot to discuss. I'm hyped for this game 5 and to see who's gonna play Phoenix. But man, it's crazy whether it's on the court or off the court. It's always something to talk about in the dub, man.
Yeah, just briefly, we talk about just some new announcement of players that's been announced that will be participating in Unrivaled. I know I've seen Rachel Banham, Cameron Brink, Arike Agumbawale, Marina Mabry, Dejanay Carrington, Maddie Segrist, and Elena Smith are some of the late names that was announced. I don't think it's anybody I missed as of the last few days. Since the last time, Aaliyah Boston, Ryan Howard, of
Eddie
course,
McAdor.
Ezzy, McBagagor is playing. And I would think after today, it would probably be some more announcements being made as well. And I guess unless you've been hiding under a rock and not really, or not into the WNBA, shame on you. A lot of conversations went on today. You know what? Before we get into that, Chris Cloclanus is out at the Dallas Wings. Talk about that for a second, because I think a lot of people were, you know, it was a lot of rumblings going on about that throughout the season, and then some people was even wondering, how did he get the job per se. I thought it was kind of a disaster from the beginning, considering that it was probably been different if you just was bringing in maybe one or two rookies to go with the veteran roster that they had. But of course, they decided, Paige Beckers, of course, but then you had a Isaiah James, and they had they had a young talent mixed in with veterans, and to me
AJ
that
Quinterly, yeah.
yeah, JJ Quinn, like that to me is you need a veteran coach because you're gonna have to be able to mix that young talent with some of the veteran talent, and it just wasn't a good recipe. I think for them, I think I seen somebody said now Kurt needs to be next, and we'll see. I mean, we'll see how that goes. But just quick thoughts on that before we hop into the Nafisa Collier and Kathy Engelberger conversations.
It's interesting, man, when you look at this because when you are, I get it because I've been on both sides of that fence. Like when you have an opportunity to be a GM, a head coach, all those things, most people have to take that opportunity no matter where you are in the process of your career because a lot of people that take these opportunities, yes, you have grinded, your credentials say you should have the opportunity, but you may not be necessarily a quote unquote institution in the game where the family of professional basketball feels like it's a travesty if you're not involved in some capacity. Most people don't have the Jerry West, the Pat Riley, the Magic Johnson, that type of cachet, where the community feels like it is just a travesty if this person is not involved. So you have to get in where you fit in. And oftentimes, when you take jobs, even when it's a promising situation, a lot of us don't have the opportunity to take a job and be like Sidney Johnson, where you take the job, you get these young players, you incorporate them with a few vets, and you're going to be greater later, and the organization knows that. A lot of times you take these jobs when they're rebuilds and you take it, you get hired because you're going to get fired. And you're just trying to stay one step ahead of the posse. You hope it works out. But the reality is that you're probably setting the table for somebody else to come in and reap the benefits of the foundation that you laid. That's how it works in sports. It is what it is. And the other thing, too, when you have, and people don't believe this, but when you have the type of discourse around who should be the coach, how they're doing it as a coach as well from your fan base, you can't run the risk of having people not come to the games anymore and say, you know what, we're fed up with this coach. So sometimes public outcry and public discourse will drive this decision as well, where people start to become apathetic or become mad that a certain person is the coach. Let's take a football reference, right? Like, yeah, the team wasn't effective with Russell Wilson being the starting quarterback in New York, but in that last game that he played, did you take a look at those fans? They were disgusted with it. So that drives the decision where it's like, you know what? In order to keep our fans engaged, even when your team is bad, you're selling hope. And under this regime, a coaching regime at least, it seemed like the hope, even with Paige Beckers, even with Isaiah James, and even with J.J. Quinterly before she got hurt, playing well, and Haley Jones coming in and playing the best ball of her career. Um, you know, Lee Rue played well before she went down. And there was no, for a good chunk of the season, there was also no, oh, geez, why am I blanking? Um, there was also no Enrique Agumbawale. So when you take all of that into the account, you would think, okay, maybe we still have a chance. But it seemed like the opportunity to sell hope had passed on this coaching staff, so they had to move on, unfortunately.
No, no doubt, no doubt. Real quick, thanks Junior the Truth for stopping by. We're getting it in late night before the game 5. I wanted to say that whoever inherits this team currently, pending the moves that they make in the offseason, I think are in good hands going forward. Like I said, pending on the offseason movement. You got Isaiah James, you got J.J. Quinley, you got Paige Beckers, you got Maddie Seegers, Enrique, you got Lee Rue, Haley Jones, which was a great addition late in the season, Diamond Miller as well. It's going to be interesting to see. And then Amy Okonkwo, who came in late as well, and she played really well.
Did.
It's going to be interesting to see who takes over. Let's just say Kurt's first hire in Dallas as a coach was not a good one. So I think everybody's going to be intrigued. His next one got to be good, or he definitely will be on the hot seat. But we'll just wait and see.
The discourse, at least in Dallas, is everybody wants Nolan Henry to get the job.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and that's the other thing. It kind of remind me like in coaching high school basketball sometimes, or really anywhere, but it really just hits me more when I think about college, high school. When I was coaching, it's like when a new coach comes in, do they keep the current assistants or do they bring in their own? And part two, why most coaches bring in their own, so they don't have to worry about nobody sniffing over their shoulder. And so what happens is when you don't bring in your own staff, and sometimes now in Nola Henry's case, she was a new hire, but she was a fan favorite and a player's favorite because she had coached in Unrivaled. So that instantly made her, very popular amongst the players. And she already had connections and relationships with the players, not only with players for the Dallas Wings, but throughout the league. And that kind of boats better when you start thinking about off-season activity and things like that, because naturally people, I mean, that's why I always hated like transfer rules and different things like that. Because in sports, most players want to play with players they like, but then most importantly, they want to play for coaches they like. And that's going to be something to look out for in Dallas with Nola Henry being there. And I'm not against it, but two coaches, if you hire back-to-back coaches that had no previous experience, it got to work. And like, it's simple as that. It has to work. If not, then it is what it is after that. But we'll see. In other news, we hadn't done a show since a lot of this stuff had transpired. Just recapping what got us to this point in the W. When you start thinking about the game fours that took place on Sunday, is that instantly, of course, Indiana pushed it to a game five. That's how we got to this point. But when you look at the Phoenix and Minnesota game, particularly the game that I want to focus on, a lot of things, had transpired previously before that game. Cheryl Reeves getting fined. She has some statements to make, which I think it's been a lot of ill feelings towards the officiating from everybody, not just, one particular team or particular players, but it's something that's been ongoing. It got so bad to the point I even stopped talking about it because it's not going to help the situation. What's going to help the situation, I think, as I've been seeing all day is, better training, better pay, because these officials are not getting paid that much, believe it or not. Like we had talked about this, if a lot of people have been following this show earlier, we had already mentioned where the referees were coming from. Like they're, G League officials, NCAA officials, that's not, not top of the line officials that really referee at the pro level. This is their first step into reffing at the pro level. So that's something to look out for. But if you kind of fast forward to today, it made perfect sense for Nafisa Collier. I felt like with her being at the head of everything, and then also her, co-founding Unrivaled and really showing how they would like to be treated within the way a league is ran, she made, statements about the officiating and the treatment. And some of the things that stuck out, if you haven't seen the video, I'm not going to play it now, but you can go to my page, Ivan D. Curtis, and I do have the video up. You can share your thoughts there as well as everybody else did. But some of the things that stuck out, she mentioned to Kathy Engelbert about the officiating. And basically she said only losers complain about the refs. And then she had mentioned about, the booming popularity of Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and Paige Beckers, but they're only basically getting a limited share of the revenue that they create, with the rookie contract. And she had mentioned about that, and she had said that Caitlin Clark Nafisa Collier said that Kathy Engelbert told her that Caitlin Clark should be grateful for the WNBA because the league is responsible for her sponsorship deals. And those are the two main bullet points that stuck out to me, aside from everything else that was mentioned, because it's kind of crazy when you think about it. That's the that's the head of the league saying this. And I said Nafisa Collier was the perfect player to come out and want to bring this to light, if everything said is to be true, because she's highly respected among her peers. I think she's a fan favorite, whether you like the Lynx or not. Like, she is not somebody that's disliked by a lot of people. And she's one of the best in the game. So people tend to pay attention to players like that. No different if it was LeBron James or anybody else. And I'm not even saying LeBron James is everybody's fan favorite, but he is one of the best in the game, and he has a voice, and people are going to listen. And it's just when you look at how everything has transpired over the season, it is 1,000% seems like that's her attitude about it. Because it does. I understand the business aspect and all of that, but at the end of the day, these players are the product. And nothing moves without the product. I don't even want to get into all those people talking about no profits and I don't care about all that. The money that is being generated is because of the product. Because if it was no players, nobody would show up. No TV brand deals, no anything like that would exist. And that's the only thing that they're asking for is their fair share of all of that, which is, like I said, rightfully so. They're helping generate it. So that it sparked a lot of reviews, a lot of thoughts, and everything like that. Hey Willie, what did you think when you first heard the video? Because actually, shout out to my homeboy Dante Dixon because he tagged me, and when he seen it and asked me was it true, and I'm like at the time I'm like I'm not really sure because I didn't really see the site where he said that posted. I didn't know how valid it was at first, but then when I went back, I said, "Oh man," I said it is true. So what are your thoughts about Nafisa Kari in the video that came out in her exit interview?
Um, you know, if anybody that knows that's been walking along with us knows anything about my background, they know that I am fortunate enough to be well versed in the business of sports because of some of the areas that I've worked in. And I say that because you start understanding these things from a different angle once you have exposure to it from a different angle. And what this is reminiscent of with Nafisa being so strong in her presence and how she communicated the interests of the players. It reminds me of Serena Williams when in the major tournaments there was a discrepancy in pay on the men's side and the women's side, and Serena helped really spearheaded the efforts to have equal pay on the men's side and the women's side in those major events. That's what it reminds me of. When you have a great player that has the presence of a Nafisa Collier, and they are the ones that are making the statements. And what's important about it for me too is the fact that when you look at the collective bargaining agreement, because that's what we're talking about here, when you have a player like a Nafisa Collier, no matter what the salary structure will be moving forward, Nafisa Collier is going to be at the top of that because she's one of the two best players in the world. So she's going to be at the top of that regardless. What you like to see is when the Nafisa Colliers, the Asia Wilsons, those caliber of players making this type of stance, they are making it really for players that no matter what the salary structure is, those players will make a fraction of what Nafisa Collier and what Asia Wilson or what Angel Reese makes because, Caitlin Clark, because these will be players that no matter what the salary structure is, they will be max contract players, no matter what it is. So they're going to get theirs. But they're not only making the stance for themselves, they're making the stance for players that will make a fraction of the money. So they're trying to raise the floor for everybody as well. It's not just the ceiling. What does our guy say? The logo, the ceiling is the roof, right? So Michael Jordan, but they're really trying to raise, she's really trying to raise the floor for players that will be minimal players that may be mid-level players. So it's not just about the frontline players getting the max. It's about the players that, that may not be max players as well that they're making this stance. And for everybody that talks about profits, I want to mention this again as it relates to the players, and they're seeing this. People always love to talk about profits, and it's always one-sided when they talk about it. We're talking about a league where a man bought a team in a big-time market for $50 million, and 2 years later, that team is worth $500 million. There is nowhere in the world that you see that type of return on investment in other than sports. And we're seeing it in women's sports. And they're looking and they're saying, you know what? As it relates to BRI, basketball related income, we need to make certain that those percentages go up and they go up significantly because we're talking about a league. I think the women are making maybe 10% of the basketball related income. I think that's the number. And again, so if you're making 10%, And 2 years ago, a team was worth $50 million. Now it's worth $500 million. The women are looking around and saying, hold up, you can talk about profits all you want. All I know is I'm seeing the valuation of this team go from 50 million to 500 million. So that was one of the things that really stood out to me in terms of watching Fee make that stance, and then again having an elite player not only fighting for elite players in the league, but fighting for players that aren't elite players in the league, and making sure that everything is good for them. And you're seeing things like I think I saw one of the posts, if it's true, Elena Deladon was like, I don't even know if Kathy knows I'm retired or not. I've heard from everybody but her, right? Like it's things like that people are saying. Angel Reese is like 10 out of 10. All the players are like, we agree 100% with Fee, and thank you for your bravery and thank you for standing up. So I think to your point, it really commands the audience when you have a player, like you said, that's light, but a player that is universally recognized as one of the two best players in the world making a stance.
Yeah, in my eyes, I mean, I felt like at that point it could only probably be her or somebody like Stewie, considering the fact that the relationship with Unrivaled, but then also her stance within the W as well. It was quite interesting. As soon as that video started circulating over social media, a press release came out from Kathy Engelbert, and she said, I have the utmost respect for Nafisa Collier and for all the players in the WNBA. Together, we have all worked tirelessly to transform this league. My focus remains on ensuring a bright future for the players in the WNBA, including collaborating on how we continue to elevate the game. I am disheartened by how Nafisa Collier characterized our conversations and league leadership. But even when our perspectives differ, my commitment to the players and to this work will not waver. You know, I guess you got to say something. It's kind of funny because I didn't expect it to come out that fast. But it's gonna be interesting to see where they go. I really don't understand. I don't see. There's really no bounce back for her to me in this situation. I think I liked how somebody put it ahead of time, was that basically the commissioners work for the owners. So there you have it. At the end of the day, I mean, it's one of those things where sometimes your thoughts are not even your own thoughts. Your doings are not even your own doings. She has to satisfy other owners, and all the majority, and sometimes you can't even do that. So, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see where they go from here, with it being out in the open like that. I think a lot of times, another way I looked at it within the women's game, it's a lot different than the NBA for a lot of different reasons. But in one aspect, most women go to college. They get their degrees before they leave to go pro. So playing professional basketball is just one phase for them, following college. So I think a lot of times people look at it as like they can like the WNBA. They don't necessarily need it because for years they was already going overseas playing pro ball anyway and getting paid way more money. The only difference was you don't get to play in front of friends, family, and a lot of other things that go along with it. But at the same time, the players have more power than people think, because like I said, without the players, no product, and no product, you have nothing. It's what will really be interesting to see, which we'll probably never see, and is what Caitlin Clark says regarding that, because that's a big shot at her, saying that if it wasn't for the WNBA, that she wouldn't have a lot of sponsorship deals, and that's kind of crazy considering she was one of the most pulverizing figures coming out of college and going into the WNBA. But moving along, tonight's matchup, talk about Game 4 really quick for the Indiana Fever and the Las Vegas Aces because there was a lot of things mentioned after that game. And, in particular, it was a nice battle between Asia Wilson and Aaliyah Boston. Aaliyah Boston got the better end of the deal with a 90-83 win over the Las Vegas Aces, which helped push it to a Game 5. But one of the things that was mostly talked about after the game, was the free throw disparity. And I had just mentioned the other day that I hate the fact that now it's come to the point where all we mention is the foul call. Not the missed shots, not the missed layups, not the missed free throws when you get them, not the turnovers, not the bad decision making or anything. It just all leads down to the officiating, which is, I'm not saying it's not a big part of the game, but I always say if you take away the majority of the flaws of the things that you can control, the rest won't play such a significant part in the end result. And I even said that even with the free throw disparity, I felt like the Fever outplayed the Aces, period. Like, they just outplayed them. And that made the biggest difference. Now, of course, this was the type of night that we love to see on a regular basis from Aaliyah Boston. 24 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Anywhere close to that, that's kind of the numbers that you regularly see from a lot of the bigs in the WNBA or forwards that's at that elite level that's in a constant mention of MVP. And I really feel like that's where Aaliyah Boston is headed. It's just a matter of if that's the type of intensity and her coming out asserting herself in the beginning, in the middle, and the end of games, because she's more than capable. Now when it comes down to the foul part of it, all of them foul. I mentioned that throughout the game. They all foul. They all touch. They all do everything. Should the referees get control of how they want that game to be played that particular night, that's where they step in and should be solely up to them. If it's going to be a touchy game, call it a touchy game. If it's going to be physical, call it a physical game. But do something so that the players can adjust from the beginning and it doesn't get to the point where we're reviewing call after call after call the entire game. And that's, to me, that's where the big problem comes in at. Are you going to let them play or are you not? And that's what I used to say anyway. Like, I never really cared about how officials called the game. It just be consistent on how you're going to call it. So now I can tell my guys or my girls, hey, this is what we start making adjustments based on how they call the game. But that never happens. And I think that's where everybody's anguish and disgust and frustration comes in at with these officials. And, because 11 free throws to 34 free throws. People will look at numbers and they'll think like, oh, man. But at the end of the day, if one team's being more aggressive and attacking the rim more, and you're going to have a free throw disparity even if they're calling a good game. Like, that's just the nature of the beast. I mean, Indiana, they shot 15 threes. Las Vegas shot 23. I think this was one of the first times I saw Indiana not settling for the three. Like, with Aaliyah Boston getting more touches, that means we're in the paint more. Kelsey Mitchell attacked the paint more. She was 2 for 5 from 3. She got to the line 6 times. And it's just like that. And tonight, I really expect and want to see the same thing. Like, let's start with Aaliyah Boston early, get her going, and play off of that. But like I said, that's to the point where we at, and it's kind of funny because I think a lot of people, made light of Asia Wilson after the fact, mentioning that Aaliyah Boston said she had a special whistle, which is, it's been a known fact that Asia Wilson does get a lot of phantom calls. But then, too, there's a situation where she get fouled and they don't call it. it to me it always balances itself out. Now the other aspect I want to mention before I pass it to you is that in the playoffs, most of the time when you're on the road, you're going to get whistle whooped. Like that's just part of having home court advantage. That comes with it. I never expect any team on the road to get the majority of the calls. It's just that's throughout my lifetime of watching sports, being involved with sports. It's just something that don't happen. You literally want to play to a level where you're not beating yourself on the road. And that's when you get the best results. Not relying on the officials to make a call. But like I said, here we are. With all of this taking place today, which really, it really, man, magnifies and puts more of a scope on tonight's game, with it being the only game before we get to the finals, is how the officials going to call it, how players are going to play it. I hope that I really hope that they really take the same approach going into and when I say they, I mean the FIBA. I hope they take the same approach into how they went into Game 4 and make the refs decide what they're going to do. And then, too, I was never a big fan of crying for fouls if we're not going to make the free throws. Like, there's no point of getting fouled and getting to the free throw line and you don't make the free throws. Fortunately, I said the Indiana Fever, they were 26 or 34, which is solid in this day and age for, 76% as a team. I mean, you want to be in that 80s, mid 80s if you can, but that's pretty solid, getting there 30-something times. But your take tonight, Willie, on Indiana Fever and Las Vegas Game 4 heading into this Game 5?
It's interesting. I think to your point about the officiating, I think one of the things to mention is, there are a lot of good officials out there, but one of the things that we talk a lot about officiating is being able to officiate a more physical, faster players and more talented. So when people are coming from officiating college at the Division I level, as great as women's Division I basketball is, it is not the WNBA. So you got to be able to you got to be able to be to make that jump and be able to project as an official. That's hard. That's hard. So you have to be able to get experience. That's one of the reasons why. And even though it's a jump, it's still a jump. That's one of the reasons why before people become NBA officials, they're reffing summer league and all, because they need to be on the floor with NBA players. And sometimes college officials don't get the opportunity to be on the floor with WNBA players until the season starts. We're talking preseason games. And so with that being said, it's one of the things that you really have to pay attention to and watch as it relates to officiating. Again, as you said, these players will adjust. How are we going to officiate the game? Is it going to be, I was as a player, I didn't like when you kind of let us play in the beginning and then you start really blowing the whistle as the game is on the line, or vice versa. I didn't like it. Just tell me how you're going to, I'm the captain, tell me how you're going to officiate the game so I can tell my team and move on. And honestly, it's why you should probably call the games, you don't want to have the games become not entertaining because you're calling every single foul. But at the same time, you should call the games to the letter of the law. Don't let people travel. Don't stop all that. Because then when you let them travel and then when you call it, they're gonna get mad. So, but one of the things that I mentioned in our last show about Indiana is I mentioned how Indiana wants to play fast, but instead of shooting all those threes, and they only shot 26% from three again in this game. But when you're doing that and you're playing fast, you need to get to the bucket and get to the free throw line. That's one of the things I mentioned in our last segment, and they were able to accomplish that. And the other thing that we have been calling on a lot is Aaliyah Boston. We were saying averaging 8 points a game in the first two games is just not going to cut it. And so she was able to be really, really aggressive. And again, make Asia Wilson have to think about, okay, I really got to account for you on the defensive end of the floor. Now, again, because you're not going to stop Asia Wilson, but you got to make her think that, hey, you know what? You're going to go at me, but I'm going to go at you too. And so I think that's really important. But I think the other thing to pay attention to, I know you talked about it a lot. Hey, man, Odyssey Sims, bro. Like, Odyssey Sims getting almost 20. Odyssey Sims had 18 again. So those are points that the Fever needs. And you know, Stephanie White said it, like they need Odyssey to rock. And so when you get that type of confidence from your coach and you go out there and you make it happen, again, that's something that's really, really key. So you're saying, so you got Kelsey Mitchell, you got Kelsey Mitchell over 20 points, you got Aaliyah over 20 points, and then you got Odyssey getting almost 20. Man, that's and when you're going to the free throw line that way, that's a tough recipe for anybody to overcome, man. So I'm very much looking forward to this. I love the fact that Aaliyah and Asia are giving us a show. They are giving us a post game show. I love to see it, man. I'm so excited for this game 5 tonight, and I just can't wait to. I hope again it's a compelling and great game again, man. Like we had in the last one. These always make for the best game 5s. It's gonna be great, man. I can't wait.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, both teams have, had games where they took them out, but I don't see this being a runaway game by no shape, fashion, or form, unless a team just doesn't shoot well. Like that's the only way I see it. Or the Aces get a lot of heavy production off the bench because they still starter heavy. As you mentioned in this game 4. Odyssey Sims having 18 was great. Then you had Shea Petty came off the bench and Breonna Turner provide some type of offense. If you look in the majority of the games for the WNBA, a lot of teams don't get heavy bench production when you start talking about scoring. So anytime you get into that 12 to 15 range that you get off the bench, you're in great shape. Having that third scorer in Odyssey Sims was huge for them. But you need that third scorer for anybody. That third scorer don't always have to get you 20, but it helps. But you want that third scorer giving you anywhere from 12 to 15 with some solid defense and everything like that, which is, Lexi Hull had 7.7 rebounds. Natasha Howard had 7 points and 3 rebounds. She didn't have a great stat stuff day, but she made some impactful plays when they needed some plays to be made. And that's really, what got them through. I think, it's been a flat-out team effort ever since they run began. I mean, even dating all the way back to when they won the Commissioner's Cup. It's been plug and play, and whoever that is, just be ready to play. On the other end, if you would have told me, Jewel Lloyd is going to play 32 minutes and only get you 6 points, I would, it's becoming a normal thing, I guess, now, but it's not something that you would think coming into this season with them acquiring Jewel Lloyd. You're looking at somebody that at least you would think off the bench, not being a starter anymore, is going to get you double figures, anywhere from 10 to 12, maybe 15 points on a good night. But she settles for the 3 a lot. And, of course, this is later in her career, but still 6 points in 32 minutes is not good at all. Jackie Young, solid. Chelsea Gray, to me, I don't know, man. I just don't think it. Once they got rid of Kelsey Plum, I just don't see a day where I want Chelsea Gray shooting more than Jackie Young. Like that's just me. Like,
and to your point, the crazy part about with Chelsea Gray, so Chelsea Gray ended up with 12. If you remember, Chelsea Gray had 6, and she hit 2 threes at the end of the game when they were trying to get. That's what got her to 12. So, And again, those were shots as they were trying to extend the game, hit shots, foul, hit shot, foul. She hit two threes, and that got her to 12. So to your point, you know, I would expect if Chelsea Gray is going to play those minutes and being as great as she has been in clutch situations, I would expect, you know, because up until that point she had 6 points. So I would expect more from her at that point as well, especially to your point, if you know you're not going to get a whole lot from the bench. It's interesting, man, because, Dana Evans hit that stretch when they were winning. She hit that stretch where she started playing well, and we haven't heard from her a lot since. And, so I would like to see a little bit more out of her being a younger guard, can give them a little bit of a jump. One of the things I want to mention about Lexi Hull, to your point, you look at Lexi Hull, she shot 2 for 12, 1 for 7 for 3. And you'll look at that and be like, and you mentioned her rebounds, which were her 7 rebounds were big. Lexi Hull had 4 steals, man. Like, ultimate consummate player that, the contribution may not necessarily be reflected in the stat sheet all the time in terms of scoring, but man, like, and then I also remember her hitting a couple of crucial shots also when Indiana was protecting the lead, trying to extend it and what have you. But yeah, man, like I would certainly expect, and we talked about this, even in that win streak that the Aces did to ultimately climb to the second seed in the playoffs, man, as great as Asia is, like becoming too Asia centric is it makes their offense predictable. It makes them predictable as a team. And when you are the opposing team, you can really hone in on, like you can hone in on like, what, we just gonna let Asia go off and do her thing. And when you, again, as I mentioned before, when you have an Aaliyah Boston, what you're doing with Asia is not stopping her, but you're at least making her play defense. And I think if Indiana's gonna win, they have to go back to that formula again. And to your point, when you look at some of the games, yeah, there have been games where Asia's had monumental games, but the games that they won in this series, they've had others come along for the ride too. And I really think, man, if the others don't come along for the ride, Indiana's going to the finals.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's the part of what I wanted to get to. The keys of the game for Indiana, in my eyes. Nalissa Smith only had 8 points last game. To me, I mean, I don't even want to see her score 8, but I mean, keeping her under double figures. She also only had 2 rebounds. Keep her off the glass because that's where she makes a living at when she does score. Catching it around the rim or getting offensive rebounds and putbacks. The other part, Dana Evans, just 3 points in 13 minutes. And those are anywhere from 13 to 15 minutes off the bench is solid minutes if you're going to produce or not. Those are the 2 main players aside from the big 3 for Las Vegas that I feel like you need to keep in check. On the Indiana Fever side, it's really the same fun. I really like to see the inside out with Aaliyah Boston. I mean, give her some touches early. I don't mind Kelsey Mitchell coming out finding her stroke if she's feeling it. Because, I mean, she has had moments where when she comes out and she knocked down her first couple, you can be in for a long night. But I think it's going to be important to keep Aaliyah engaged every single second of the game. And mostly we know as guards, it starts inside. When the bigs just get to touch it, they ain't got to score it. They don't even have to. If they get to touch it on the offensive end, it makes them play 1,000 times harder on the defensive end. And that's why I like to play inside out if you got it. And in this case, they got it. Also, try to force some pressure on A'ja Wilson to continue to play defense. Now, what do I want Aaliyah to be a little bit more under control with the bowls and everything? Yeah. Not saying don't be physical, but be more skillful and structured in your movement because I just feel like that's going to be a point of emphasis tonight, one way or the other. Kelsey Mitchell getting to a flow, Odyssey Sims getting to a flow. Something that I don't think get talked about a lot, even with Lexi Hull, man, is she has shown the ability to knock down shots of course, spotting up and everything like that. But she shoots really good off the bounce too. She has been doing a great job of getting her own shots. And it's kind of been the evolution of her game offensively in the half court throughout this year. Of course, it's easier when Caitlin Clark is playing because she's going to have the ball 90% of the time, and she's hitting you where you're getting open looks. But now, since they don't have her making that transition from just not being a spot-up shooter, being able to get to the rim, being able to get to the mid-range, more like the elbow areas and different things like that, and not only taking them but making them, I think is key. The other part is being a constant nuisance on offense, as far as getting offense, chasing down offensive rebounds, making plays and everything like that. And the one thing that I really wanted to mention about that is she's a national champion. Champions do the intangibles to win championships. And it doesn't matter what your role is on the team. You have to be able to do those type of things if you want to get to that next level. And I think she does a great job of being a star in her role and doing those type things. And that's the type of effort it's going to take from everybody tonight if they want to get to the championship. I kind of can see it. I made a post about it. Who doesn't want to see the Phoenix Mercury against the Indiana Fever to make it a little bit more electrifying with the DeWanna Bonner ordeal and situation that took place? I think that's going to have a lot of that's going to just add more spice to the finals. Of course, I mean, you got to win it and get there, but I honestly think that's going to be something to look out for if the Fever happen to get by the Aces tonight. Of course, it's in Las Vegas. Las Vegas is, you kind of want to, you kind of need to take it on your home floor. I mean, that's part of having the home court advantage if you make it to that last game. And I don't know, man, it's real interesting. Like I said, today's discourse and everything made it that much more exciting and getting more hyped up to see how it goes down. In these type situations, you never really know what's going to happen, but I just got a good feeling. The thing I like about it, they've done it already. They've won in Las Vegas already. So it can be done. And honestly, I think it will be done. I just got that feeling. I mean, because to me, A'ja Wilson being an MVP and being as good as she is still a heavy burden when you can score 31 points, grab 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 steals, 3 blocks, and still come up short. And I just find that hard. You can't win like that every night. If you're having a dominant game like that game that stat line I just mentioned, that's a career night for some players. That's a normal night for her when she got it going. And I just don't think you can sustain throughout the playoffs through the entire time and bank on that. Especially when you got the 4 players who played 32 plus minutes. I just don't see it. So, of course, I mean, everybody know I'm rocking with the Fever, but, that's my key points of the game. Hey, Willie, you got anything you want to say before you get out of here? We're going to get out of here. My plan was to get out of here before 9, get ready to settle in and watch the game at 9:30. You got anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Oh, man, just sit back and enjoy the game. We had a lot of the things going on off the floor that make this game even more compelling that, indirectly involve the two teams that are playing, but they don't directly. But, in terms of what's going on with the league and the collective bargaining agreement and all those things. But, man, okay, now it's time to enjoy basketball and see who's going to play Phoenix in the finals.
Got you. I want to thank everybody for stopping by. Thanks, Danny Aguirre, for following the Troll Time Show page. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And it's the usual around here. We don't take things too serious, but we're really here to laugh, show love, promote, talk sports, movies, joke, and troll. Catch us on the next episode.